You got 3 transfers coming in, 3 offensive linemen starting tomorrow. That's what I'm going to be looking for too, Zach. I'm a big line. I'm more of a defensive line guy. I love the studs like Nick Fairley, guys, Derek Brown, the guys, interior guys who can really shake things up. But nobody's looking past this offensive line. And when you make such a big deal about it through the transfer portal, which it was a big deal for Auburn to get these 3 guys, where are they going to land? What's the pecking order come April the 8th? Are they out there with the ones? If not, are you a little disappointed?
Concerned?
Yeah. Who's going to step
Right.
up with them? And Zach, do you have, and Jay, have you too? If those 3 guys are your starters, and we don't know much about them, only what's on paper right now, which we've seen from film in the past, which you guys probably do that. Where do you have this? And who are some candidates to join them as that starting 5?
Okay. So I'll go left to right.
Right.
My starting left tackle, I watched enough of his tape from Tulsa, and specifically, I watched him compete against Ole Miss, is the young man from Tulsa. I think he is a plug and play. Is he ideally built to be a left tackle? No. But I've seen enough of his footwork, his power, his athleticism out there on the edge. I think he absolutely gives, and we only have right handed quarterbacks on the roster. I think he gives our right handed quarterbacks the best opportunity to keep their blind side clean. So he's your starter at left tackle to me. Your starter at left guard is going to be Jeremiah Wright. I thought he flashed there last year at times. That's predominantly where he lined up when he did play. And I'm excited to see if he can continue his progress at that position. And Hugh Freeze mentioned it on the recruiting show that you guys did with him on the Inside the 20. They're still looking for some interior depth there. There's not as much as you would think. Gus got a bad rap for doing nothing but recruiting offensive guards. But when you look at the roster right now, you could use another guard or 2 if we're being completely honest. So it's going to be important for Jeremiah Wright to step up this spring. At center, you're right. It's Avery Jones. I don't think there's anybody on the roster minus Connor Lew.
Oh.
And Connor Lew is a high school kid. That is a really tough transition to make, to come from high school into the SEC. You're going from being able to ragdoll kids that are 240 pounds to playing with full-grown men on the line of scrimmage. That's not an easy transition to make. Reese Dismukes is one of the few guys that's been able to do it and do it successfully. I think we're much better off, though, if it's Avery Jones as your starting center, and he plays the way he's capable of. I think your starting right guard is going to be Cam Stutz from day one. I liked what I saw from Cam as the season went on. I thought that as a mauler, and look, let me be clear about this too. I thought down the stretch, the last 4 games when Cadillac Williams took over and Will Friend and Ike Hilliard were calling plays, the offensive line played better than the defensive line at times. I thought that they really started to grow up as a run blocking team, and I thought Cam Stutz was a big part of that and his growth and development. And then your right tackle to me is Gunnar Britton. Now, the big thing with Gunnar is you saw him when he played against Auburn. He was a little bit lighter at that point. He probably was playing at about 280. And I got to give Jason Caldwell credit, friend of the show. He was able to interview Gunnar, and in that interview, he talked about how he had an abscess tooth and he couldn't eat for like 3 weeks. So he lost a whole bunch of weight coming throughout the season. Does he add that weight back? I've heard that he has. And how does that help him as a run blocker at the right tackle position and also as a pass blocker? Does it give him that increased bulk and size that he needs to match up on a regular occasion with SEC defensive ends and tackles? So that's my starting 5 left to right. I think that's probably where they fit best in the construct of a Hugh Freeze, Philip Montgomery offense. But Zach, as somebody who played offensive line, I surely didn't at 175 pounds, bro. I promise you that. And if we did, we were going to be in some trouble. But I'm interested to see what you thought about that offensive line or your own offensive line, what ideas you have.
I think that will most likely be what gets rolled out the first few days. I do want to see Jalil Irvin is probably the X factor. I think at one of the guard spots. I mean, you're looking at a guy who's a senior, 310 plus pounds, at 6'3", has experience. He's got to take the next step. You got to put some pressure on him to continue that development, man. As a senior in the SEC, you got to be out there playing in the front, in the starting offensive line. Also, Xavier Miller, too. I want to see if he can compete more at the tackle spots. It'll be extremely difficult because I do think the 2 guys you have at tackle, man, great, especially Dylan Wade. I think he's the only guy outside of, the center spot that I think has probably locked up a spot. I have that much faith in him. I've seen his film. I've seen his experience. So I really do think he's got probably the left tackle spot locked up. But Miller and Irving are two guys that I think could compete for the guard and the other tackle spot in my offensive line. I want to see what Miller looks like against SEC competition, though. That's the only thing is I want to see, because sometimes it doesn't translate, man. You can nail those additions sometimes, and then other times they don't take that next step when they get into the SEC.
Especially coming from junior college, it's so hit or miss. And Jeffrey, you can talk about this better than anybody. They can look fantastic in the Mississippi junior college game, and they get to Auburn, and it just doesn't work out for whatever the reason.
And it works the other way too. I'll never forget me and Caldwell being the theme of the show. This is the third time we've mentioned him, but me and Jason Caldwell went to Mississippi. I can't remember where it was. It was where El Toro came from.
Yeah,
it was Gulf Coast.
There you go.
Jason and I went to Gulf Coast to watch. I can't remember who it was, but Isaiah Buggs was playing. And Isaiah Buggs, we watched him, and we walked away from that going, that dude is trash. Like he was, I couldn't believe he was a 5-star guy, right? I mean, he was not good. He was not good in that game. Jason Caldwell, I trust his opinion on as much as anybody. We both walked away there. I was like, damn. And he turned right. He turned out to be very, very good. Isaiah Miller was one guy that when we talked to Hugh Freeze last week, and Zach, you were there. I felt like Hugh Freeze's eyes kind of lit up when we mentioned him, and and he talked about his weight. He talked about his potential. I'm curious to see. I like Dylan Wade at left tackle. I think that was his job. That was why he's brought in to play. I like Avery Jones at center, and I like Gunnar Britton in there somewhere. I just don't know where. Zach, can Miller play guard?
He could. I mean, he's 6'6", 320, so he has all the measurables. The only thing I will say, though, I don't know his arm length. If his arms are a little bit on the shorter side, then a move to guard is probably the best case, because you saw at the Senior Bowl, a lot of guys who were playing tackle in the Power 5 level, if their arms don't hit a certain length, they move them to guard. So I would be interested to see what Auburn would report his arm length to be.
Okay. Isaiah Miller, I mean, you've got some really good options. Is it like Zach said, Jalil Irvin, does he step up? Does any of the other guys like who else did I have written
Tate
down?
Johnson as a backup center.
What about E.J. Harris?
E.J. Harris is a freshman that we all saw compete at Auburn High School, and he was dominant at the line of scrimmage as a run blocker. Now, as a pass blocker, he had a ways to go, but as far as being able to run block at an elite level in high school, I mean, you did not want to be on the other side of him, matched up head to head. You know what I mean?
I feel good about the left side. I feel good about Dylan Wade. I feel good about Jeremiah Wright, and I feel good about Avery Jones being at center. It's the right side. Like you hope that Gunnar Britton is ready to be that guy at right tackle. Like you hope he is. You hope Cam Stutz is ready to continue evolving into the player that we all hoped he would be. Yes. Then you got Isaiah Miller there. So I think that right side is a little bit of toss up right now, but I do feel like that left side in Dylan Wade and Jeremiah and Avery. Who's gonna challenge Avery at center?
I think right now it's going to be Tate, just because of his experience in college. But to me, it's watch the fall with that one, because that's when Connor Lew has a spring to get underneath his belt. He gets a full summer to get into a weight room.
Is Connor here this spring?
He is here this spring.
Yeah.
So he gets that opportunity. He probably is going to be with the threes, if I had to guess, just because the other two have snaps in a college game. He doesn't. But as spring goes on, as fall camp rolls around, that's when Connor Lew, to me, can kind of start to make his ascension up the depth chart and potentially be your number 2 or your number 1 if Avery Jones doesn't work out the way we think he's going to. And then who's the kid from North Carolina? We got him in Harson's first class. He was Will Friend's big pickup, 4-star offensive tackle.
Colby?
Yes, Colby Smith.
Oh, yeah.
How does he do? You
and Garner Langlow. Yes. Colby Smith, they were both in that class, if I'm not mistaken.
They were. So Garner Langlow, Colby Smith, and E.J. Harris. How do those three factor into it? Because they've all had an opportunity to redshirt. And in the case of Colby Smith and Garner Langlow, they've had 2 years on the roster. So what do they look like this spring? Did they slide into the 2 deep somewhere and get a spot? Langlow's a guy to me that's a swing lineman that could play inside or out. I think he's probably best suited to guard, in my honest opinion. Kobe is more of a tackle to me. I think probably a right tackle. And then EJ's a guy that could slide inside or out. He's not another swing lineman. So can they somehow figure out a way into the 2 deep? It'll be really interesting to see. But, those are some young guys that have some talent. And sometimes they just need a change in the offensive line room, and they need a change at the head coach position for them to get that chance to really kind of ascend.
And maybe this system is better suited for their skills.
Yeah. I could not agree more, Jay Lee.